So the first thing I think of when I think about modernizing applications from a legacy framework to newer frameworks is I'm calling in sick the next day. No, I'm just kidding about that. But the thing is, though, modernizing is not an easy thing to do. It is time consuming, and it can take one person or a team of developers weeks to do. Getting away with it in just an afternoon could be amazing, right? But a whole team doing it for weeks or months, I've been involved in these efforts and it is totally possible. But I want to show you this brand new tool that can not only take your legacy .NET app, whether it's like .NET 6 or even .NET Framework, and move it all the way up to modern .NET, .NET 8, .NET 9, or soon to be .NET 10, quick and painlessly. So let's take a look. If you're over the age of 40, you are going to remember the great Contoso University application, and it is .NET Framework app. And you can see that is about to start up, and that's, this is .NET Framework. And when I got this thing going yesterday, I actually had to install some Windows components to get it running again. But here it is, real simple. It's just lists, students, courses, and instructors. Real simple, but it's .NET Framework, and we want to bring this all the way up. I'm going to move it to .NET 9, and then we'll push it up to Azure as well. So what are we going to do, and how are we going to do it? We're going to use Copilot, and we are going to use some tooling that goes along with it. So I'll bring up Open Copilot Chat, and the tooling that we want to use is going to be way down here in a little toolbox, the 2 wrenches, and it's called .NET Upgrade. So all I have to do then is ask Copilot and say, hey, upgrade my app to .NET 9. It's going to go out, it's going to figure things out, and then says, all right, I'm going from 4.8 to 9, and then couldn't find the file, Contoso project, and now it's going to kind of reiterate. And so that's one of the great things about this, is that it might make a mistake. Like when it's going through and we're going to be like making the changes, you're going to see compile time errors as you do this. So it happens. Totally expected. And so here we go. Eventually it will find it. And here we go. So what happens then is that this really is an MCP server. So it's asking us, hey, is it cool if I run? Because a lot of times MCP servers, you might not trust, you don't want to trust them all the time. But with this one, I am totally going to trust it, at least in this session. And away we go. So again, it starts thinking. And you know what this does as your whole upgrade goes, it's not a snap your fingers and be done. It does take a little bit. And so it might go on for all afternoon, it might go on for all day, but you will eventually make it through. And the best thing is that you're not doing a ton of work yourself. You're just kind of supervising it as you go. So it comes through and asks me, hey, where do you want to go? 8, 9, or 10? And I'm going to pick .NET 9, hit send. And it's going to look through everything again and then come up with an upgrade plan for me. So as it's doing that, before, it also notices that, hey, you have this thing in a Git overall repo. Do you want to maybe create another branch so you kind of don't mess up your work beforehand? That's a good idea. So I'm going to say, yes. Create a branch named, how about upgrade-mat. And so this is agent mode, right? And so agent mode can actually do things on my behalf. So it's checking if the branch exists, it doesn't, and it's going to go through and create it for me. All right, so as I was mentioning before, what upgrade can do here is that not only can it do a MVC app as we were looking at, but it can also do things like functions. It can do things like console apps, WPF apps, and so on. There's a lot of things that we can move up from not only framework, but .NET 6 up to modern .NET and everything. So the world's your oyster, so to speak. All right, the very first thing that it finds out is security vulnerabilities. We're going to want to take care of that because the last thing you want to get is a call in the middle of the night saying your brand new upgraded app has a security hole in it. So it's going to find that and take care of it. In this case, it's Microsoft Data.SQL client has a CVE in it. And so then it's going to also go through and create an upgrade plan, which is going to come out as a markdown file. And then essentially it's going to use that markdown file as a checklist of things that it can do or should be doing. And here it is. So we will put it in a preview mode, make it a little bit bigger so you can kind of see in a nice way of what it wants to do. And so far it's going to say, all right, I'm going to validate that the .NET 9 SDK is available, make sure that we can put it in a global JSON and so on. And then it's going to go into our NuGet packages and say what it can do with them. Like, should we be upgrading them? And so on. And I'm going to move back here so we can see it a little bit easier. And it's going to, like Antler, we're currently on 3.4. We're going to move to 4.6. And that's the package recommended. So why we're doing it. And so for like SQL client, you can see right here, we're going from 2.1 to 6.1 because of security vulnerability. And we have a bunch of 9s here. And those are our, because we're going to .NET 9. So we're upgrading all of those as well. All right. Back to Copilot in the window here. So it's saying, would you like me to continue executing the upgrade plan? Or we could go in and modify it, right? Probably should look at everything, but you know what? I trust it. There's a lot there. Let's do it. Continue with the plan. And I really probably don't have to spell it right, but I want Copilot to think I'm as smart as it is. All right, here we go. And it's going to go through. It's going to use our .md file. And that .md file for .NET upgrade plan.md is actually stored in a GitHub folder within the overall project. So it's underneath in your root folder, .github, your project root folder, .github /upgrades/ and you can find the .NET upgrades.md file there. All right, and so as this thing kicks off and starts going, you're going to see then a status report as it goes through and figures things out. So it's going to show you the progress, and then you can actually see a little bit more detailed summary, including any commits that it makes along the way. So you can do all the Git wonderfulness of backing things out if you needed to, even though we are working in a new branch. And so the way it goes, our very first thing is that we're making sure that we have the .NET 9 SDK installed. And so, as I said, it does take a little bit to move through. We have the .NET 9 SDK. Now it's making sure that we can upgrade it into the global.json. And it also shows us over here in Copilot chat what it's doing too. So we have status updates on the left and on the right. All right, so as it starts moving through then, and actually starts making the changes, we've updated our NuGet package, and you'll see a whole bunch of things moving through in the progress log. Again, I can click the changes to see exactly what it has done. If I wanted to really keep a close eye on it, I can move back over to GitHub Copilot chat. Right now we're upgrading the CS proj file. We're doing some NuGets. And as it goes on, we'll see that it will most likely start dealing with the minification stuff within the project. The project also uses MSMQ, so it's going to upgrade that. And yeah, it's going to move through. And right down here, we'll say that, oh, we found some NuGet errors. So it doesn't do everything perfect on the first time, as we saw when we kicked this whole process off, but it goes through, finds out the issues that it has, and then goes through and tries to fix them. So that's cool, right? And it also, if you had any dependencies within your projects, it's going to figure out the dependency order and then start upgrading at the lowest dependency first. That way, everything that depends on the dependency, right, works as well. Okay, and it started on now. We got all our NuGets and everything ready to go. And we started on feature 1, the web optimization, bundling, and minification. And I don't know about you, but when I see this go on, in Copilot, I'm mesmerized by what agent mode just keeps on ticking away. A lot of people just like to let it cook, so to speak, and walk away from it. I don't. I sit there and I watch it, every line that pops out. You can see we had an error in that command, and it's going to go through, fix it, and keep on running. Okay, so a lot of the times, if you're not watching closely, you'll see it will kind of just sit for a little bit, and you'll be wondering why is it moving? If you look, if the little send button is back, just ask it to continue. So agent mode can only do a certain amount of requests before it needs, essentially before it needs to run again, right? So so it doesn't overrun or overload. So just hit say continue and it'll keep on moving. So that's not necessarily just related to this. That is a thing overall with Visual Studio, with the VS Code, just across the board. So just a FYI, you do kind of have to watch it just to say continue every now and then. Great. Now, as we see, we got feature 1 all complete, which was our bundling and minification. And now we're on to updating our route collection. So feature 2, as we move on and keep on chugging away to our upgrade. Feature 2 is complete. We're moving on to feature 3 now. Things are getting faster and faster, it seems. So as it chugs through feature number 3, I do want to point out one thing. I'll jump over to summary here, and it's creating a bunch of commits as we go. So feature 1, when that was completed, it committed. Feature 2, committed. And I see feature 3 got completed too while I was just talking, committed. So that's all great. I mean, so it's actually going step by step by step, committing the code so we don't lose any of the work that the Upgrade Assistant and Copilot was doing. And now we're on to system.messaging, feature number 4. All right, so now all the features have been completed. We're moving into a validation stage where it's just going to go through and check all of its work to make sure it's good. So it's really just testing what it did. All right, we got through all 3 validation steps. Now it's going to generate a comprehensive report to tell me all the good things that it did. And here it is. So again, this report's going to live in the same directory that the plan did. And essentially the report's going to look just like what the Copilot is telling us right here. And it just says what it went through, everything that it had to go through to do it, all the commits that it made to go through and what it did with the commits, and all the other, like the technical changes that it went, 4.8 to 9, it did some model bindings, and so on. And then our next steps that it wants us to do is like test the application thoroughly. Sure, whatever, I believe that you did it. So great, everything so far I think is going well. So our next step then in our journey to move things to Azure would be to keep and continue everything, where it's just asking me if I wanted to keep all the changes that it made, the typical Copilot thing. And then next, I'm going to hit these little gears again on select .NET Upgrade and then select some app modernization ones. And these are for moving up to Azure. And so what I'm going to say now, and I'm going to close all my windows, close all tabs. I'd like to modernize this app for Azure. So it's going to go through now and scan this app and start looking for how it can actually push it up to Azure, like which services that it's going to have to create in Azure, like app service or maybe Azure Container Apps, SQL Server Database. Um, this is using message queuing, so it's probably going to have to use maybe Service Bus or something. So it's going to go through and start looking at all that and eventually present us with a report asking our permission to go ahead and do it. So we'll go through and has a good understanding. It says, all right, it has a database, the features, notification system, and it's going to create a strategy for us to take a peek at. It's also going to create a diagram as well. And here it is. So the diagram itself is in Mermaid. So what I will do then is I'll just Control A, Control C, open this up in VS Code so we can take a peek at it. All right, so here's what it wants to do, the architecture overview. It's going to create a web application. It's going to put it on Azure App Service, and then it's going to hit a database and an Azure Service Bus. And then the compute resources, an Azure SQL database, app service, so on, and it's going to tell me all the app flows. So it's just really just kind of made this what we're going to do with everything. So cool. I like that. Close this up. I am now going to go back to Copilot Chat and take a look to see what it says. All right, so it told me everything that it wants to do, kind of similar to what we did here. But it also is going to say, you know what? Here's where I could host it. I could host it in App Service. I could host it in a function app, a container app, static web app, or AKS. So I'm going to say, you know what? Let's host this in Azure Container Apps. So I'm going to start overruling what it did. So I do have that control to it. So I'm just going to say that, and it's going to go through and actually re-update what it created here for the plan, which is kind of cool. And you can see here by the changes, it just changed, popped in. Make this just a tad bit larger. It popped in container app for app service. Cool. And I will always allow this tool to run in the session so it can go through. All right, so our next steps then really is going to be the same thing as we did before, where we're just going to kind of let it run. We're going to step by step, it's going to go through its plan. It's going to create a Docker file to package up our application. It's going to create all the provisioning that we need in Bicep so it can go through and create all the Azure resources for us, provision them, right? It's going to create them brand new. And then it's going to be able to create an AZD, Azure Developer CLI template, essentially, so we can then push both the Azure resources and all the code up to Azure. And so it works, right? So we just can do AZD up and everything goes. So it's asking, you know, should I proceed executing this plan? And I could say, sure, go ahead, and it goes ahead on and on. I, though, have skipped ahead to save you all from having to watch this run again and again, because it does take a while to run. And I have created a previous run of this. So this one has already gone through, and it has, if you take a quick look, it has the .azure in there. So that's a telltale sign that the Azure CLI is ready to go with something. All right, so all we have to do then is, as this keeps on going, it's Visual Studio wants to keep on jumping in and telling me, hey, I'm doing something. Great work, I believe you. And so all we do once it's there is, you know what? I am going to just say Visual Studio. It's, as we can see real quick, Bicep, Azure YAML, and so on as it runs through. Now it's going to wait for me so I can jump in and show you things. And once we have it, I can do azd init. If I do -e to create an environment, and I'll just say mant new. All right, we're already initialized to an environment. That sounds good. So what I'll just do, because I did this last night, and I can do an azd up. And what an azd up will do then is take everything and deploy it to the cloud. So I would need Docker installed on my app or on my systems, because then it would do it takes that Docker file, makes the images, pushes the images up to Azure Container Registry, all the good stuff. And then what we would finally end up with is this. Everything up here, a fully production-ready application. Like we have app insights in there, we have our container app, managed identity, so the container app can talk to SQL database and service bus and everything else. So there's our service bus namespace. It's all here. So yeah, let's launch it. Let's launch the app. Spin, 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 and there it goes. So this is .NET 9. This is running up in Azure. This is running from a container. We did it. We went from .NET Framework 4.8, moved it all the way to .NET 9, and then we said, go out to the cloud. And not only that, we took a 4.8 app and we containerized it in the cloud, and then we have it running with managed identity from the container app to Service Bus to SQL Server, and it's all running. And you know what? It does take a little bit to move through, but it is so much less painful. And it's really, when you sit down and you think about it, it's mind-blowing. So give it a shot. Let us know what you think. I'm excited to use it, and I think you will be too, so try it out.